It seemed that, after yesterday's expansion, the spirit egg's appetite had become a bit bigger, for it managed to absorb more than yesterday's quantity. Naturally, Subai was delighted about this. He was afraid that it would absorb too little, not too much. Instead of returning home for lunch, he quickly finished the snacks he had packed and then resumed his tree rubbing for the light balls. At noon, Yang-ju eagerly video-called him and showed him his pet egg. His egg with the Conch King's crystal nucleus as a beginner material really looked unusual. The whole body was deep blue like the sea, with purple diamond-like particles on the surface forming a special pattern that looked unique at first glance. Yang-ju grinned happily. "Don't worry, I will look after you in the future. Okay, take good care of your spirit egg. I have to hang up now." Busy Subai hung up after a few words. This mountain forest was not without danger, and some servant monsters might be attracted by any great movement. A servant monster was not to be underestimated, either. As long as he did not have pets, he would die after encountering it without hope of escape. He had to be careful and not make too many spiritual power fluctuations. As long as he did not make loud noises or emit bloody smells, it was relatively safe to roam on the edge of this mountain forest, near the road. For the next 6 days, Subai continued this routine. During the day, he would take the spirit egg into the forest to fuse wood attribute light balls, and at night, he would use his purchased materials to fuse the poison attribute light balls. However, he returned home later and later because the spirit egg's appetite was getting bigger and bigger every day. On the first day, it only consumed 100 wood attribute light balls, but even 200 light balls were not enough on the second day. Moreover, it was reasonable to say that the average spirit egg would hatch within 7 days, but Subai's egg remained motionless on the 7th day. It seemed to be waiting to be fed and madly absorbed every light ball that Subai gave. Yang-ju's spirit egg had already hatched while his remained an egg. Such days continued until the afternoon of the 15th day. Looking at the wood attribute light balls in his hand, he bowed deeply and then waved at the trees. "Thank you. I will definitely come back to visit you when I have time." He also pitied these trees. Since he did not dare to venture deeply into the forest, he could only use the trees on both sides of the road. Thus, these trees had been drained by him to the point that their leaves and branches were now looking lackluster and brittle. Still, he had achieved his goal. The wood attribute of the spirit egg was completely saturated, and the poison attribute was almost full. After he returned home and drained the remaining poison attribute materials, the spirit egg should be completely saturated. It was expected to hatch tomorrow. The vast horizon is my love. The flowers in full bloom at the foot of the green hills, riding a small electric scooter and humming a song, Subai returned home. He put the spirit egg in his bedroom and took a bath. He then took out the poison attribute light balls from a few crystal nuclei and fed them to the spirit egg one by one. Introduction: Wood Poison Dual Element Spirit Egg. The wood poison attributes are saturated. It is hatching. Satisfied, Subai looked admiringly at the spirit egg in the incubator. If the light attribute light balls in the spirit egg 15 days ago were as bright as the light of fireflies, they were now as bright as the sky. He eagerly awaited the hatching of his spirit from the egg. He believed that the current spirit's quality of talents would be completely different. Even if its beginner materials were poor, after feeding it with so many attributes, it would definitely leap over the dragon gate and become an exceptional, skyrocketing beast. "Brother, your pet egg has yet to hatch?" After school, Suyu ran over to ask, even more anxious than Subai himself. "It's not surprising. It will hatch in 2 days." He smiled happily. "Let me see." Suyu leaned over to take a closer look. "Brother, your pet egg feels unusual. Can I check it using the pet illustration machine?" "No, I don't want its data to leak out for the time being. Only you need to know that it is unusual." Subai waved his hand. The illustration machine was connected to the internet, and it was difficult to ensure that information would not leak out. To avoid unnecessary trouble, it was best not to check it and ensure that there was no leak of information. Of course, it would not matter once the spirit finished hatching. "Okay, it looks like you have some sort of happy encounter, brother. You will have to look after me more next time." Suyu winked conspicuously as he cheekily sought protection. Isn't it guaranteed? I'll definitely look after you. Subai patted his younger brother on the shoulder. In the evening, their parents returned home and took a look at Subai's spirit egg again. Both of them understood that it might be different from others and specifically told him not to use the illustration machine to check it. They could just wait until the egg was hatched before checking. They must be extremely cautious and wait for the dust to settle. Once the egg was hatched, it would be safer. Subai, who completely understood this, naturally had no plans of using the illustration machine. He himself was the most powerful illustration machine. The sun shone brilliantly, setting ablaze the thousands of mountains. Abruptly, Subai was awakened by the sunlight spilling into the room early the next morning. The first thing he did was look for his spirit egg. Immediately, he was shocked to see some small cracks on the body of the spirit egg. Aquamarine, life-filled light radiated through the cracks, and when it shone on him, it gave a sort of physical and mental comfort as if life was about to be sublimated. At the same time, a very cordial and faint call came from the bottom of his heart. He knew that this was the call of his spirit. Soon, he would have a spirit of his own. In order to welcome the birth of this little cutie, he took out the milk and energy potion of the snow mountain yak that he had long prepared. The so-called energy potions were formulated with spirit crystals as the basic materials and mixed with other spiritual plants and fruits in a special ratio. Not only was the taste delicious, these potions were also good for absorption as well as restoration of energy and had the effect of promoting pet evolution. A pharmacist had made these energy potions. Subai had the most basic wood spirit potion in his hand right now. It was suitable for most wood spirits or monsters, and the particularly fragrant taste was very suitable for young spirits. With everything prepared, Subai opened the lid of the incubator and waited for the birth of his spirit. At this step, there was no need for any rush. He had to wait for the spirit to crawl out of the egg itself. After waiting for half an hour, the cracks on the spirit egg reached the limit. Soft green light spread to the surroundings along with an invisible green field. Wherever it went, all the plants grew madly, and the green radish on Subai's windowsill covered the whole window in an instant. However, he was not in the mood to care about all these occurrences. He stared intently at the pet egg. After a few clear clinking sounds, green light first flew out and turned into a big cyan book in front of Subai. Following which, a little head smashed the eggshell and locked eyes with Subai. Hoo, hoo. Howl Tilda.